Welcome to It's All Geek to Me, a podcast where two friends experience popular nerdy franchises for the first time. My name is Leah, and this season, my co-host Kelly will be watching my favorite films, The Lord of the Rings, for the very first time, and I'm the expert. Let's dive in.
And we're back. The final episode of the final movie of the Lord of the Rings trilogy.
Kelly, how do you feel? You've seen them all.
I feel weird. I'm not gonna lie. I feel weird. I think that the mark of a good and powerful movie is that you feel this weird, surreal feeling afterwards.
Like, oh, it's over.
Yeah. I remember there are certain films in my life that I remember when I walked out of the theater feeling different after.
Yeah.
And I think the same could be said about this.
What? I love that. Well, and I feel like films like that are the ones that make me want to watch them again.
Yeah, very powerful.
Because you just want to experience it again. You don't want to say goodbye to these characters that you've gone on this journey with.
It's a lot.
The way that they start is so different from the way that they all end.
Mm-hmm. I know I said it at the end of the last episode, but I'm so glad that I did not watch these movies with that guy from my college class.
Me too.
That would have been so overwhelming, and I don't think that I would have been able to handle it.
I don't think you'd be able to appreciate it. And sometimes when you watch movies with people, you're talking or you're this or that, or guys have these ideas of what might happen. You're like, stop,
Netflix
I'm trying to watch a movie. We're not Netflix and chilling right now. These movies, I feel like you gotta focus.
No, I would have been way more invested in the film than I would have been in him regardless.
For sure. But he'd be distracting you, go away.
Yeah, I probably would have called it quits early and then probably would have never watched the rest of them.
Yeah.
But anyway, let's pick up where we left off. We watched the final, basically half hour of the film. We actually stopped the last episode at a pretty big cliffhanger. It was a very tense moment.
Yeah, so the people at the Black Gate just started charging, was where we last saw. And Sam had just picked up Frodo. So pick us up from there.
Well, I'll pick you up in the same way that Sam picked up Frodo.
Nice.
Because he started carrying him and he saw a doorway, which I was like, thank goodness, because I thought they were going to have to go all the way up to the top, which was still a ways away. So I'm glad that they didn't have to do that. And then he's almost there and he's like, look, Mr. Frodo, a door.
There's the door.
And then Gollum appears. He is still alive. I am shook.
Same.
I can't even believe it. And then he attacks. He knocks them over and then he starts strangling Frodo. And then Sam throws a rock at his head, knocks him over. They start having a fight. Meanwhile, the armies are fighting.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a hectic moment where everyone is fighting. Just a super tense moment. Sam swipes at Gollum with a knife and cuts him in the stomach.
Yeah,
the Nazgul are
crazy.
coming. And then Gandalf sees a little moth. And I was like, is that the same moth as was in the first movie or maybe the second movie? And then the Eagles come and everybody's so hyped because the Eagles are coming to save them.
This isn't a fun fact about the movies, just a fun fact about the watching experience of Leah as a child. My disc would always get stuck between this chapter and the next chapter. So remember when you watched on a DVD and you could go and search the chapter? I'm aging myself, I feel like saying this.
You're aging yourself. I was going to say, we didn't even have DVD players when I was a kid. I didn't use DVDs until college.
Oh.
Yeah, and I'm only a year older than you.
You had a VCR. That's what it's called, right? A VCR?
VCR for VHS.
A VHS.
Yeah,
okay. No, we had a DVD player for sure. I feel like my dad was always up on the gadgets. But this DVD would always get stuck between these next two chapters. There's two lines that are said that are the names of the chapters. So this one is called The Eagles Are Coming, and the next one is called The End of All Things. And I always remember it. When I hear those lines, it's almost like hearing the name of the film. Because I'm like, it's the name of the chapter.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. So I think it was Mary who yelled the Eagles are coming, but it might have been Pippin. Okay. Yeah. So I'm not going to blame myself for not knowing because it was hard to tell. There's a lot going on. So then while they're fighting, Sam looks up and realizes that Frodo has gotten up and he's running for the doorway, which I was like, heck yeah, you do this. But Sam was scared, which I guess was for good reason, because then he follows him and he's like, Mr. Frodo, where are you? And Frodo's at the edge of a cliff overlooking the lava of the volcano. And Sam starts yelling at him to destroy it. Frodo's holding it up, but he's not letting go of it. And Sam's like, what are you waiting for? Just let it go. And he's crying. He's overwhelmed at this point. We're all overwhelmed at this point. I'm sure you were crying.
No, I didn't cry here.
Actually, I have to tell you, I did cry at one point.
Oh, wait, you can't tell me. You have to wait till we get there.
I'm not going to tell you at what point.
Oh, listeners, we have a moment.
But I would like you to, at whatever point it comes, I would like you to guess what it was that made me cry.
Okay.
So if at some point you think I cried, you let me know.
I already know. I already know. I already have an idea. I have an idea. But we'll get there.
So the ring is whispering to Frodo, and we hear this like heartbeat thudding in the background, which I thought was really powerful too, where we're experiencing this oneness between Frodo and the ring. And then Frodo turns around and says the absolute last thing I would have expected. And he's like, the ring is mine. And then he rips it off the chain and puts it on his index finger.
When I was watching this, I was thinking Kelli is freaking out right now.
I was freaking out.
I feel like you did not predict that Frodo wouldn't do it.
Nope. I was like, this is not the ending I was expected. I was terrified.
Yeah.
And then even worse, because Sam starts screaming, Sauron's distracted because Frodo has the ring on. And then Frodo leaves. We see his invisible footprints walking away. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this was all for nothing. Frodo's leaving. So someone's going to have to find him and like kill him and throw him into the lava. Yeah. So I'm freaking out. Gollum knocks out Sam and then he starts grabbing at invisible Frodo. They start fighting again. They get back to like the edge of where the lava is and they're fighting. And then Gollum bites Frodo's finger off with the ring on it. And then Gollum has the ring.
Gross.
And he's super hyped. And then there was some confusing intercutting going on. I saw at one point Aragorn fell and Legolas is running for him. And then I saw Aragorn falls again. So I guess he just like keeps getting knocked down.
Yeah, I don't love the intercutting here. I was thinking about this while I was watching it because the moment that we're getting with Frodo is arguably the most important moment of the trilogy. And they're trying to build the tension like Frodo's not going to throw the ring and Aragorn's going to get crushed by this giant thing. And I think they're just trying to keep Aragorn tied in with the story because their fates are very important. But I just felt like the stuff happening with Aragorn was really weak and you just want to know what's kind of going on with Frodo. I feel like the movie could do without it if I had to critique it, but I get what they were doing.
I actually think I enjoyed it. So it was hard to write down exactly what was going on because I've been taking copious notes, but I do think that it was important because there was so much tension in that moment. Anything could have happened.
Yeah.
So I'm like, is Aragorn gonna die? Is Frodo gonna die? Is Gollum gonna die? Anything could happen.
That's true. I guess I'm looking at it from the perspective of knowing it's going to be okay.
Yeah, it was a stressful moment.
But yeah, I think having Aragorn dying makes sense there. But it's just like the stakes felt a lot lower just because he was being killed by this like nameless creature. And I felt like that was a little weak. Yeah. But it could have been a touch stronger. I get that. But I don't know who could have been fighting him at that point. So
yeah, I think when this movie was filmed, it was a lot more important for important characters to die from important characters. Like instead of just a nameless person. But I think at this point, we've evolved so much with filmmaking. Well, to be totally honest, we haven't really evolved that much.
Yeah, in a lot of ways.
Yeah. But I think we have evolved enough that a less important character can kill an important character. And it can be like an, oh my gosh, after all of this.
This is how it happens.
So I kind of forgot that we were in this older movie. So I was kind of thinking it could happen from anybody.
Yeah. And then even like the way that Frodo falls, it could have. I'm sure there were many times here where you thought that they were dead.
Yeah, there were many times that I thought Frodo was dead, for sure. Part 1, when Frodo's clutching his hand with his remaining fingers, Gollum's cheering, and I'm thinking Gollum's gonna fall. Like maybe this cliff is gonna collapse like it did when they were underground fighting the Balrog.
On the
bridge.
Then
Frodo gets up and he starts fighting him again, and then they both fall. And I'm like, oh, they're both dead.
He's dead,
but no. So we see Gollum falling, and he is super happy. He is in absolute bliss. So he's dying happily, falling with the ring.
He got what he wanted.
I was pulled out of it for a second, and I know it's so annoying to be technical about it, but I'm sorry. That's lava. He would have burst into flames immediately.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't love his death. It's like he's sentient under there.
Yeah.
Like, no.
He's literally being engulfed by lava. He's still holding up the ring, and he's like, yeah. No, he's dead.
I feel like it almost would have been more powerful if we didn't see his joy turn to terror again.
Yeah.
If he just died happy and he just burst into flames.
Yeah, that's what I was kind of hoping for, so I was a little disappointed about that.
Yeah, I think that could have been better.
And then the ring's still floating on the surface. It's not sinking under, so it's just holding on, which was really, really stressful.
Yeah.
It was still going.
I liked that, though. I think, to me, I was able to suspend my disbelief with that because it is this powerful ring that was made in these fires. It's going to take a minute,
Yeah, but it was still really stressful. And then I saw that Frodo was still hanging on, and I was really excited because maybe he doesn't have to die. And I was actually really conflicted on my feelings about this because I was thinking, should he die for this? Mm-hmm. Maybe he doesn't have to. Maybe, Smeagol died for him so that he doesn't have to. But then there was a lot of times where I was like, oh no, he's gonna die. Oh wait, nope, he's alive. Nope, actually he is gonna die. Nope, wait. So yeah, no, we had that a lot. But Sam tries to grab for him. He begs him not to let go. And at this point, I'm thinking Frodo's gonna let go because he has nothing left.
I cry at this part a lot.
Of course you did.
Yeah. This is a cry for me.
You cried the rest of the movie, I'm sure. Yeah. So the ring finally falls below the surface of the lava and finally starts losing its power, and Sauron starts freaking out. The bad guys start running away from the battle that they're in. And then the Eye of Sauron crumbles, and we see Gandalf crying, which I was really surprised to see. And then Sauron explodes. Merry is cheering for Frodo. And then the orcs start falling through the earth because the earth literally Mordor is crumbling. Yeah. And everything falls except for where the men are. And then, of course, Sam manages to get Frodo out of there. And I'm like, oh, wow, they lived.
There was a moment before that, though, that I love because you have Merry cheering for Frodo and then they see the volcano explode.
Oh, yeah. I was about to mention that, but I forgot the order
that happens before they leave, though. Yeah, no, this is tough, but to get the order. So they're cheering for Frodo, cheering happily, and then the volcano explodes and those cheers of happy Frodos turn into sorrow because at this point they think that he's died. And this was another amping up crying moment for me. Yeah. No one's surprised anymore.
At that point with the explosion, I wrote, okay, Sam and Frodo are dead. But then I was like, oh, wait, they're not. But how did they survive that? Because the other thing I was thinking, and again, I know I need to suspend my disbelief for a minute, but there's lava all around. Wouldn't that heat kill you?
Yeah. Well, and so the explosion happened at the top of the mountain, but they, I think, were nestled kind of in it. Yeah.
So then they're on this edge of a rock where the lava's not touching them. And then Frodo's laying down and he says that he can see the Shire. And then I'm like, oh, okay, so they are gonna die. And then Sam starts crying. He's thinking about Rosie and he says...
And this is when you cried.
Nope, not when I cried.
This isn't it?
No.
Oh, I thought it was going to be when he said...
that if there was anyone that I could have married,
it would have been her.
I did get choked up at that point, but I did not. Tears did not fall.
I did cry there. With Frodo seeing the Shire and that part, I'm like definitely crying a lot.
I was thinking if there was any moment that would make me cry, it would be that moment. But I was also thinking if I was on my period, you probably would have.
Was it their wedding then? It was their wedding. It was their wedding.
I cry at love. That's the only thing that makes me cry. Love makes me cry.
See, I cry at the sadness of love, like him saying he'll never see Rosie again.
No, I cry at love. Take me to a wedding and I will cry the whole time. It doesn't even matter. It can be strangers. Sometimes I see like a bride and groom down the street at the church going to get married and I just start crying. I love love. Wow. But yeah, no.
Damn, I was close.
You were so close. You were so close. But yeah, so Frodo's crying too, and he says, I'm glad that you're with me, Samwise Gamgee.
At the end of all things.
At the end of all things.
Name of the chapter.
Name of the chapter. Big moment for all of us. And then I'm like, okay, so they're dying, but they're dying together. So that's really sweet. But then no, Gandalf is coming with the eagles and he grabs them. So that's good. But I did actually at first think that Frodo died anyway, because then when he wakes up, he's glowing. And I'm like, oh, so he's in heaven. But no.
I almost think that he thinks he died in that moment because he sees Gandalf. As far as he knows, Gandalf is dead.
Yeah, that's true.
So I may have thought he was in heaven.
Yeah, he probably did think that.
But I have to make a mention of something I said in like one of the first episodes that when Gandalf died, I specified to you that he said, fly you fools, not the run you fools. And the reason I want to bring it up, and we won't touch on it too long because I don't think you really picked up on it, which I appreciate that you didn't pick up on it, but there is a huge quote unquote plot hole that the Eagles coming in at the end of the film to save everyone, take down the Nazgul, get Frodo, was a bit of a cop-out. And they say, why couldn't the Eagles just have taken Frodo and flown him into Mordor and dropped the ring?
Ooh. I mean, I guess I understand that perspective, but I feel like it was also hammered into us so many times throughout the trilogy that this has to be Frodo's journey and that he has to do it alone.
Yeah, exactly.
Even when he was with the Fellowship, he had to separate from them. I mean, he had Sam with him, but at the same time, this was a burden that he was told multiple times that he had to bear alone.
He has to do it by himself, yeah,
and if somebody else did it for him, I don't know that it would have worked.
And then a lot of people say that Gandalf saying, fly you fools, and also wanting to go over the mountain pass was him wanting to go get to the Eagles and tell the Eagles, like, this is the plan. And I'm like, y'all are reaching. This is not at all. I just think it's a fan theory that's really big, and I have to shut it down for people because it's just so outlandish, in my opinion. It doesn't, like, fit the story or the world.
It would have been a lot shorter of a trilogy.
But they're like, oh, you know, like, they could have just done this. It would have been easy. But there's so many reasons why not. Another reason is the Eagles are very similar to the Ents, where they don't want to get involved unless they have to. Yeah. And they didn't feel like they needed to be involved. They owed Gandalf a favor, which is why they helped him on top of the tower, why they came in at the end, why they searched for Frodo. But there's politics with the Eagles, and the Eagles don't feel like they want to get involved at all. There's more of that in The Hobbit, where they take the... I'm going on a tangent. You're laughing at me.
No, I'm laughing because I'm thinking, like, imagining the Eagles being like, oh, sorry, we don't get involved in politics.
No, they do, though. Like, talk? And they say that. Yeah, they do talk.
I love
also,
it.
If you've read the books, you know that the term fly comes up a lot in the books. It's just the language that they used, but it became this like secret plot hole that people found. And I'm just like, y'all are reaching. This is not a plot hole.
I think it could be said about so many franchises, you know?
Right. How do you know that Gandalf like didn't think of this and decided that this stealth mission made more sense than just flying into Mordor with eagles when there's tens of thousands of orcs there that could easily shoot down 4 eagles.
Yeah, and then it's over.
The stealth made way, way more sense.
Yeah.
So I had to bring that plot hole in. I'm glad you didn't say anything about the eagles coming. So if you had any thoughts about the eagles or want to learn more about it, I am always down to talk on Twitter and give you more information on why the eagle plot hole does not exist.
Fight for the eagles. Somebody fight us, please.
I love the eagles, but I think they did their part the way they needed to, and that's all.
Yeah, and I think you actually brought up a great point in that if the eagles just flew over, who's to say that the orcs wouldn't just kill them, like shoot them out of the sky?
And then the ring would be in Mordor.
And then the Nazgul would just destroy them. That's it.
Yeah, exactly.
The end.
And then the ring would fall into Mordor. End of story. So
I think there are way worse plot holes in stories. And I think that's a very thin one, if it even is one, you know?
I agree.
But anyway.
And now Frodo's alive again. And
Frodo
he's in bed.
does end up being alive. Yeah, he is there. Gandalf's smiling at him. He starts laughing. Gandalf starts laughing. They're just having a great time. Merry and Pippin run in and they start jumping on him. And at this point, I still wasn't sure if he was alive because I was like, maybe they died too. But then Gimli comes and he's hyped. And then Legolas comes and Aragorn. And Sam is just standing there being all like sad and cute. And then I'm like, oh, okay. So this is real. This is the real deal.
And the Shire music played again.
And Leah cried.
I mean, I'm crying at this point. But when Sam comes in, the music changes back to the Shire music. I also have to laugh in this scene because as everybody's coming in, he says everyone's name. I don't think he doesn't say Merry and Pippin's name, but they come in together. But he doesn't say Legolas's name. When Legolas comes in, he just goes, oh. And in my head, I'm like, did he forget his name?
They didn't know each other that well.
They didn't know each other well at all.
I was actually thinking, like, out of all of the Fellowship, they all cared about him so much because they cared about the journey.
Yeah.
And, you know, like, making sure that this happened. But they didn't really connect with Frodo as much as they connected with each other.
Right. And I think Aragorn connected with him in the last moment that they saw each other when he closes his hand and he says, I would have gone with you to the end. I feel like the two of them have a strong connection. But yeah, between Gimli and Legolas, I don't think he really did. Also, if I had just woken up after this almost year-long journey that I was on and there were all these people standing over my bed, I would be like, can you leave, please?
I actually thought it was like really cute, like when Merry and Pippin were bouncing around. Like if you watch them during the slow motion, they're making the silliest faces and just bouncing.
I know, and they're like jumping around. Oh, trust me, I'm watching them. Yeah.
But the one thing I was thinking, I don't know if maybe I just like lost sight of him. I saw Gimli climb up onto the bed, but then he wasn't in that last slow-mo shot. So I'm like, did he fall off the bed? What happened to him?
I don't know.
I didn't see him.
Did he jump on the bed? I thought he just came to the bedside.
I didn't see him. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
But yeah, so I'm assuming at this point we're still in the White City and Aragorn has his coronation, I guess is what it's called.
Yeah.
And he's being crowned the king by Gandalf. And I did notice in the background the tree did kind of bloom. It was white.
The tree bloomed. Later in the shots, the whole thing was full of bloom. Like all the petals were falling.
Oh, I didn't even notice that.
In that whole scene, the petals were falling.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Were they white? It was white petals?
Yeah.
I saw the petals, but I didn't know it was from that tree.
Yeah, it was from the tree.
I just thought people were throwing petals, like, you know how you throw rice at a wedding.
No, that was from the tree. That was from the tree.
Wow, okay, so I was right. My film instincts were right, so I can keep my degree, thank goodness.
And the other thing you said was correct-ish, that you said that Sam was going to come back and save Frodo. Yeah. He did briefly leave, but he did come back.
So I'll stand outside barefoot for a minute, and I'll call it even.
You stick him out the window, that'll be plenty.
Yeah, oh sure. And then Aragorn does a little song, which I'm sure you appreciated, but I didn't because I hate singing in movies and shows, unless it's a musical, in which case I just won't watch it.
Oh my gosh, in the book there are so many songs in the book. I don't read them, honestly.
I think that songs in books are the worst. I know there's a lot of symbolism in them, but when I see like stanzas, I just skip over it because I can't hear the song. How am I supposed to know?
Exactly,
so
I agree.
It just gets annoying. But then Eowyn is there and she's wearing like a circlet on her head, so I'm guessing she's the queen now of Rohan?
No. So Éomer, her brother, is the king of Rohan.
And she's just dressed cute.
I don't remember her title, but did you notice who she was standing next to?
I thought she was standing next to her brother. Was I wrong?
You were wrong. Her brother was on the other side. She was standing next to Faramir.
Oh, okay.
And a little enticing fact for you to maybe watch the extended editions one day. One thing that gets cut out is a love story between the two of them.
Really?
Yes.
That's fascinating.
Because think of the last time we saw them. I know it gets jumbled because
it's jumbled.
A lot happens. But the last thing we saw of Faramir is he was gravely injured and almost killed by his father. And the last we saw of Éowyn, she had just kind of collapsed over her uncle's body. She actually completely passes out there. Her brother finds her, thinks that she's dead. And she has to be like nursed back to health. And Aragorn helps. It's a whole thing. But then, you know, her and Faramir are too injured to do this last battle. So they're just in recovery together.
Romancing together. Ooh.
And they do end up getting married.
Ooh.
And she has some sort of powerful position, but I don't know. I don't remember exactly what it is.
Okay. I like to hear that. I would have liked to see it because I do love, but I understand why that wouldn't make it into the movie because it's kind of a random pairing.
But it's also just like, we're at the end of the movie. We don't need to see like a courting session. It just doesn't fit in.
Yeah, it's a lot. Oh my gosh. Imagine if like the battles and Mount Doom were intercut with them flirting.
That's what it is. Yeah, that's what it is.
That's incredible.
It doesn't make any sense.
But anyway, so the elves are coming. Arwen's here. She's holding the banner. And Elrond is already crying a little bit. Like he's choked up in the background, which I thought was really cute. Because I couldn't decide if he was sad to see that his daughter was mortal or that he was happy that this end came to fruition for her. But I choose to believe that he was happy for her.
It's a little bit of both. Because of course he now has to live his life without his daughter.
But he's going to have their children. He's going to have their ancestors. Wait, no, not ancestors. What's the opposite of that?
Kin?
Predecessors.
They're
kin. No, wait. Predecessors is the same thing as ancestors, isn't it?
Predecessors.
Oh my gosh.
What's the word?
How am I forgetting this word? I don't know.
They're
future generations. Let's just say that.
I guess.
Someone's going to tweet at us and be like,
Someone
you
help us.
doofuses.
What is the word? Kin is the only one I can think of.
Yeah. So, but I mean, generations to come are going to be looking to him and he's going to be able to take care of them. So that's good.
Yeah.
And I did notice when they went in for a little kiss, Aragorn went in tongue out.
Full tongue. I hate it. Why did he do that?
I was actually laughing because I was like, Leah hates this. I know that you hate the aggressive kiss.
Like right away in front of everybody, I wanted something a little softer and consensual.
And when was the last time they even saw each other? And he's just going in, tongue out.
First.
Yeah, he was really for it. And you know what? Respect. I respect him for that.
And I have to say, I do appreciate the aggressive kiss in the right setting. Sometimes you need a little warm-up, and I think I needed as a viewer a little warm-up.
To pretend that I'm Gen Z for just a second, I feel like very easily you get the ick from guys being overly aggressive when it's not necessarily appropriate to be doing so. So as soon as I saw it, I was like, oh, Leah's dying right now. She can't handle this.
I, of course, noticed it. The second kiss was way cuter.
The second
when they're
kiss
like
was
closer
way better.
in.
Yeah. It was just a lot to see his tongue coming out. But, you know, he was thinking, I'm going to kiss Liv Tyler. I got to make it count.
I know. It's like I blame Viggo Mortensen.
Yeah, he was hyped for it. He was a little excited. But you know what? Yeah. Can we blame him?
But also, to be fair, we're kind of getting the back of her head. So maybe Liv Tyler was going tongue out too. We don't know.
Her tongue was all the way out. She was ready for it.
We have no idea.
So then the crowd parts and the hobbits are there and they bow. And Aragorn's like, you bow to no one.
I cried there.
And then, I know you did. I know.
Tell the viewers.
The viewers already know.
This was the last time. So let me give you my count for this movie.
This was your last cry? I cried after you were done crying?
The fake endings, 100 of fake endings, I feel like don't get me anymore because I'm just kind of like looking at things and appreciating it. Yeah. Sometimes I cry at one moment, but I was thinking about something else this time, which I'll explain when we get there. But this was the last time I cried.
She was thinking about her casserole in the oven, guys.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, did I shut the oven off? No, I was thinking about a fun fact that I had, but the fun fact comes later. Right. And I cried 17 times in total.
17 in one movie.
Thank you.
So where does that bring us to? 27 cries?
For total? I feel like it was around there, 27 or 28.
I was thinking maybe 28.
I think because I cried once during the second film and I think 10 times during the first. I wish it was 27. That's my lucky number.
Oh, wow. That's pretty close, though.
I'll take one away.
All right. Well, one of them will just combine. So yeah, everyone's bowing to them. And then we are brought up into this map and we hear Frodo telling the story. And he says 13 months after they left,
to the day,
they returned home. And we saw that scowling hobbit. And I wrote down, I don't remember if that was a man or a woman. I don't remember what I thought that person was.
A woman, but I'm pretty sure it was a man because there's a woman living in the house. And I'm assuming they are a hetero couple because this was 22 years ago.
Yeah, that's fair. But yeah, so I wrote down, I don't remember what I thought, but really it could go either way. But they're still scowling and, you know, still sweeping because it's just perpetually dirty. And then it's kind of sad here at the end for a little bit. They're sitting at this tavern and they're really looking and feeling out of place.
Yeah.
Because, you know, again, we have this thing that we found out at the beginning of the films that hobbits don't leave and you kind of become an outcast when you do leave. And now they've had all of these adventures and they're almost like too big for the Shire now, you know? And later we find out that Frodo really is too big for the Shire now and he can't find his happily ever after there anymore.
Exactly. And I think to speak on that is like Sam has Rosie, the boys have each other, and Frodo's kind of alone. And I also think that Pippin and Merry are much more adaptable as hobbits than Frodo is. I think Frodo and Sam are a little bit more changed, but Sam has Rosie.
Yeah, Frodo's super emo and that's why I feel like I'm Frodo. But yeah, let's get back to the Rosie situation because they're sitting at the tavern and they've got their drinks and they're just sitting there drinking and they look a little sad and everyone's just going around living their lives and they just kind of feel like outsiders there. And then Sam sees Rosie and then he takes a drink and then he gets up and then the tension breaks a lot there because we see
the boys all start laughing.
He's been through this whole thing so he can get up now and he can talk to the woman that he loves.
Yeah.
So
which I love.
Yeah,
his
absolutely
bravery.
Loved that. So I was like, yay. And then they get married and that's when I started crying because I was like, love is real.
And I actually need to throw back to, I think the very first time I cried in this movie was when they're in the tavern and they're all dancing around and Sam doesn't dance with Rosie. And I cried and I couldn't explain it. But the reason I cried then was because I know how he speaks about her later and how he says he would have married her and then he does get to marry her. So that moment was sort of like a foreshadowing foreshadowing moment, and I couldn't really give you all the juicy details of why that made me cry.
And I appreciate that. And I was so annoyed then. But now I wonder if that would make me tear up a little bit now knowing how far their relationship goes. And we also see, I don't want to spoil the absolute ending, but we do see that they have 2 kids together.
Yeah, little babies.
So then we hear Frodo sharing his story and we see him writing. So it seems like he's finishing Bilbo's book. And he says, how do you pick up the threads of an old life? And he's writing that down. And then he flips the book back to the front and we see that he is writing the book that Bilbo started. And then he adds his own name and title. So it says, and The Lord of the Rings by Frodo Baggins. And then he starts grabbing onto his chest a little bit, which I thought was kind of weird because I thought it was his other side that got stabbed, but they would know better than I.
The actor probably forgot.
No, I mean, obviously they probably have somebody for continuity there, so they know what they're doing. But I was just pulled out of it for a second because I was like, wait, is that the side? But anyway, he finishes the book that Bilbo was writing, and then Sam comes over and he asks, what are you doing? And then he's like, oh, you finished the book. And then he reads the title out loud. And then Frodo explains that he never really healed. And it's been 4 years since that stabbing happened, and he never fully healed. And at that point, we kind of get the sense that Frodo's never going to find his peace here. And of course, that comes back. So then we cut back to Bilbo. So you lied to me because you said we were never going to see him again, but we do get to see him again.
We see Bilbo again.
My favorite villain.
This cute old man, the worst villain to ever be seen.
So he's been given this honor by the elves, so he is going to take the last ship out of Middle-earth. And so Frodo's riding in the cart with him, and Bilbo says, oh, do you happen to have my old ring? And Frodo's like, oh, I actually lost it, I'm sorry. And then Bilbo says, oh, what a shame, I would have liked to hold it one last time. Which I was a little sad to hear, to be honest, because I thought that maybe the ring wouldn't have so much power over him, but I guess the fact that it was such a gentle, like, oh well, I guess it did lose its power.
Yeah, it's just a memory at this point.
And he has truly aged now, so age has caught up with him. He's old now.
Yeah.
And so they head on over to Elfland, which I keep forgetting what it's called.
The Undying Lands.
No, Elf World, Elf City.
Rivendell.
Rivendell, which actually sounds and maybe is the same name as a town in Skyrim. That's the last mention of Skyrim, I promise.
We'll see. Imagine there's like a version of Skyrim that's just The Lord of the Rings and you accidentally like got the wrong version.
I was going to say, there is. It's just called Skyrim.
Yeah.
No, but I will say they do have a DLC now. Actually, it might be 2. I don't know, but I have both of them if there's 2. And there's like vampires and there's another area. And that is the least Lord of the Rings like part of it. So I'm starting to think that Skyrim really is just Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
And they were just like, let's make this trilogy into a video game.
Yeah, seriously.
But yeah, so we head on over to the ship and all 4 hobbits are there. And so is Gandalf. And we see the 3 elves and Galadriel is there. And she says that the power of the 3 rings has ended and it's time for the power of men. And so we know now that they are basically relinquishing their power and they're just going to let the world take its course as it will.
Yeah, we trust you now. Do your thing.
And Gandalf is leaving too. And the hobbits are really, really sad over it, especially Merry and Pippin. I think they're just really attached to him. And I thought it was weird at first that Frodo wasn't crying, but I immediately find out why, because Gandalf says, all right, it's time, Frodo. And then Sam is absolutely distraught because Frodo's got to leave. He says he just doesn't have a place there anymore. Although I don't know where he's going, but I guess it's kind of ambiguous.
He says, we set out to save the Shire and it has been saved, but not for me. And where he's going to the Undying Lands as well. It's sort of a mystical place where it's really only for elves, but Gandalf can go, I think, as a wizard. And hobbits also can go, but they don't go. Like, they have to be invited. But Frodo and Bilbo have been given this honor. And actually, fun fact, I have 2 fun facts. Okay. Sam actually does end up going to the Undying Lands as well in the future as sort of a retirement.
Okay. With his family, I hope.
I feel like Rosie might go with him too. But the other fun fact that I have and why I wasn't crying, because I was thinking about this, was that Ian McKellen had said that this was actually the first scene they ever filmed in any of the trilogies.
Really?
And he says that if you really pay attention to his performance, he as an actor wasn't feeling the gravity of their relationship or the journey that they'd been through. And it annoys me now, and I'm so sorry that I'm now spoiling it all for you, but now every time I listen to his speech, I'm like, he sounds vaguely flippant. Just a touch.
Well, I was actually thinking that. So it's interesting that you said it because I was thinking it's interesting that he's being so lighthearted about this. But to me, I interpreted that differently. I thought that that meant that he was feeling so light after this adventure that he didn't really see anything as an ending anymore, that he just felt like peaceful now.
And that's actually something I love so much about film is that performances get interpreted so many different ways. And for Ian McKellen, he's like, I didn't give my best there. But there is still a way to interpret that and make it make sense and feel it the way that you felt it. But for me, just having that information and knowing that as the actor, he just like didn't get it fully. One thing I wish is that there was a cute little Hobbit group hug that they all kind of ran into Gandalf, gave him a hug, but he kind of just walks away.
He's like, I don't know you guys.
I don't know you guys that well. Hi, my name is Ian. Hi, I'm Elijah.
They're like, we have to cry over you. You don't even care about us.
Yeah, exactly. So those are my fun facts. And I do often cry in that scene.
I guess it just goes to show you how good of a job acting. I mean, especially for the 3 hobbits that were left behind, you can really just feel their emotions so strongly. So just shows how well they acted that. They did a great job. So that is the last of it. And Frodo hops onto the ship with Gandalf and they sail off and the hobbits watch them.
And he gives Sam the book before he leaves and he says, you know, there's a little bit more for you. He hugs them all and he says goodbye.
He says there's a few more pages left and they're for you or something like that, which I was just like, all right, your book, good job. But I thought the hugs were more important anyway. But I was a little sad to see that Frodo wasn't crying because I thought that maybe he would be at least a little bittersweet about it. When I say that he's too big for the Shire, I don't mean that he feels like he's too important for it. I just mean more like he feels like his world has expanded so far beyond it that he just doesn't feel comfortable in the Shire anymore, you know?
He can't settle in there. He doesn't belong there. Kind of the way that Bilbo never belonged there, but Bilbo stayed there for Frodo. Like he was raising Frodo and Bilbo was unhappy and Frodo has this opportunity to be happier.
Yeah. And then they sail away and then we see Sam coming home to Rosie and his 2 cute little babies. Yeah. So he's got 2 cute little kids and they get to live there happily ever after. So I have to say, not what I expected for the ending.
Like the 10 false endings, first of all.
Yeah, there were a lot of false endings. There was a lot of times where I thought like, oh, Frodo's dying. Oh, wait, no, he's not. Wait, yes, he is. Oh, no, not again. Now he's sailing away forever. Okay. I had in my mind that there was going to be a happily ever after for Sam because I thought that Frodo was going to die at Mount Doom. But when he didn't, I was like, oh, okay, so they're going to have a happily ever after together. But I thought it was really interesting what Frodo said to Sam because he basically says to Sam, you can't live your life in half or something like that. And I thought that was really powerful because I think as long as Frodo's around, Sam is always going to have this loyalty to him and this love for him. And I think he wouldn't have been able to give 100% of himself to his family. Yeah. So I think that that was also an important reason why Frodo needed to leave because I think he needed to give Sam his happily ever after as well.
Yeah. I think in the end it was better for both of them and they will always have a powerful bond as brothers, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. And that's why I think that Merry and Pippin are definitely together because as they were walking away, they had their arms around each other. And I think that that was definitely, I mentioned at the last episode what is called queer coding. And I think there was a lot of that at the end of this film. And I think that did get ruined a little bit at the wedding when Rosie threw the bouquet to one of them and then he looks over at the woman next to him. I think that would have been way better if the other one was standing next to him.
Mary was there and he handed it to Mary or something. Yeah.
Yeah, that would have been great. But it is what it is. They weren't allowed to film movies that way. I mean, we're filming this in 2022 when there's outrage over a 1-second peck on the mouth between a queer couple in an animated movie. So
it's crazy how that has expanded, honestly. And I love that it has. Even a show that I watch, Survivor, which is my favorite show. It's a reality show. In season 9, there were 2 queer women whose family came to visit them and they wouldn't show them kissing. It was too early in time, as annoying annoying as that is to have a queer character or a queer romance, but I do think that film and TV, as younger generations are coming up and they're the ones creating, it's going in a good direction.
Yeah, absolutely agree. But that's it. That's the end of the tale.
I feel like there is a little debriefing we have to do. Like, number one, I want to know who your favorite character is.
Sam.
Okay, cool.
Without
Sam.
a doubt. Yeah. If I were a character, if I wasn't one of the characters that stayed behind in the Shire and was just hanging out, I can't say that I would be Rosie because I don't want kids.
Yeah. So you're not Rosie.
But if I was a character that was featured in the film, I think I would be Frodo because I am really whiny, very emo. I need someone to carry me. I think I'm just very Frodo-like. I would love to say that I'm like Sam, but I don't think I'm even remotely like him. But I think you are.
I feel like I'm either Sam or I'm Pippin.
Yeah, I was gonna say, you could be Pippin.
Depends on the mood that I'm in. And I'm a little bit of an elf when I'm in a, spiritual mood. Because I think that 3 words you could use to describe me could be brave, goofy, and spiritual. And I think each of those 3 characters have one of those qualities.
Yeah, actually, the more I think about it, the more I feel like you are most like Pippin, because I do think that you're brave in the way that Merry and Pippin are. I don't think it's necessarily as, not to be mean, but I don't know that it's necessarily as selfless as Sam's bravery
I totally agree.
was.
No, I agree.
And I also feel like Merry and Pippin kind of... I don't know how to explain it, but they kind of like failed their way up into being brave.
I agree.
Like they didn't plan for it, but that's what they ended up being. And I think that would happen to you. Like I don't know that you would intend to be brave, but I think you might accidentally be a good person without intending to.
Yeah, it's like if I'm thrown into a situation like that, I think I would act well, but I think Sam went out of his way a little bit more than I maybe would have.
Yeah, like I don't think you'd be giving up your last drop of water.
But if you were Frodo,
you'd be my Sam.
I would be your Sam. Like I wouldn't be anybody's Sam, but I think I would be your Sam.
And I would be like, no, I don't remember what strawberries taste like.
No, I actually wanted to laugh about that scene, but I was crying, so I couldn't. But Sam's just like, do you remember all these amazing things? And he's like, no, I remember literally nothing good. Can you stop talking to me, please?
That's literally me every time I'm in a mood. People are always like, think of the happy things. And I'm just like, no, that's it. And also him like swatting away at like the characters and stuff. Like I always laugh about it, but I actually do have really crazy dreams. Yes. I'm always like half awake for them. And poor Ryan, who I live with, he always has to deal with me just waking him up in the middle of the night and just like thinking that he's a monster.
Yeah.
Or that like there's a monster in our room trying to kill us. And always just like, I'll protect you. But then there's nobody there.
So that was like Frodo swatting at the hallucinations.
Yeah.
Oh my
definitely
gosh,
Frodo
so
in this case.
Well, I'm glad that we have the same favorite character. I definitely have honorable mentions of Éowyn, Pippin, and Merry. But Sam, for sure, is not only my favorite character, but definitely the hero of the story.
Éowyn, really? Oh, I liked Arwen a lot more. I wouldn't even consider Éowyn to be an honorable mention.
See, my thing is with Arwen, and I think this is the deal of the writing more than anything, I do find some annoyance in the fact that she never battles, and her character does fade away a little bit in the last 2 films. I do wish that she had a stronger part to play in it, but she really didn't. She was more just a plot device for Aragorn to take his rightful throne. And actually, I feel that doing this with you pointed out a lot more of the annoyances that I have with Éowyn. Yeah. But when I think of her as a character, the 2 scenes I think of are her saying, I don't want to be in a cage, and her killing the Witch King. That's what I think of with her. I don't think about her pining over Aragorn,
I think if it weren't for the Aragorn love story, I would have liked her character way more. I think it actually ruined her for me. As much as I love romance stories, I hate the unrequited love story where one character is just so obviously lusting or pining for somebody who is just so obviously not interested. Yeah. And I just find that to be so annoying. Like I almost find it to be a weak trait. Like if you're in love with somebody who doesn't feel the same way about you, like Like, I know that we can't control how we feel, but I feel like if she just
put her energy into something else.
Yeah, exactly. So I did just find that to be a weakness of
which
hers.
she did, but no, I agree with you, but I still like her.
And I think the reason that I liked Arwen so much is because there's a lot of mystery and allure around her.
Yeah.
And I think that's why I felt so intrigued by her. I would have loved to see more of her, but that's kind of where I'm like, I want to see more of her.
Yeah, exactly.
I want to see less of Éowyn.
Yeah, I want to see more of Arwen as well. I wish that we got more of like what we saw in the first movie with her, but it is what it is.
Yeah, she's cool.
We are going to do the Ladies of the Ring film since Kelly still has her film degree. We will be rebooting this. Donate to my Venmo if you want to be a part of it.
We only need hundreds of millions of dollars.
Donate what you can for Ladies of the Ring.
I will be Frodo.
And I'll be Sam. And we will kiss by the end of this.
Absolutely.
They will fall in love.
Rosie who?
Yeah, right?
And Merry and Pippin will definitely be together.
Well, I guess the big burning question from me is, did you like it?
Yes, I liked it. I would watch it again, and I'd be curious to see the extended versions.
Yay!
I wouldn't watch them all at once, though, still.
Not in a day, no.
No. I wouldn't do it in a day. I wouldn't even do it in a weekend. And I feel like you would, but I don't think I could yet.
I would do it in a weekend.
Yeah.
I do that sometimes.
But if it was, if I was scrolling through on TV, well, I don't have cable, but at some point in my life, I'd like to have cable. But if I was scrolling through and I see it's on, I would put it on.
Yeah, I love that.
In my hypothetical world where I have cable. So I guess that's it for this season.
Yay, season 1 is over.
Can you believe it?
But It's All Geek to Me is not over. We have way more. No. We will be back with you next week with a new episode, with a new franchise.
Should we
say it?
Should we reveal what it's going to be?
I mean, if you've been following along and you've made it this far, you probably have a pretty good idea of the next franchise we are going to do. It is Star Wars!
Star Wars. And I'm sure a lot of people are going to be asking what order we're going to be watching it in. So we're going to talk about that in our episode 0 for that season. So we'll talk about what I know about it, which order we're going to watch it in, and also which ones we're watching, because there's a lot of movies.
There are a lot of them.
Some TV shows.
Yeah. And also just my opinion and my relationship with Star Wars, because I have to say it's very different than my relationship with The Lord of the Rings.
But in between franchises, I think we'll probably do something a little bit light. So we'll probably just do a little fun bonus episode in between seasons.
Yeah.
Maybe Leah will be the newbie and I'll be the expert.
Which is terrifying to me to have to narrate these films because Kelly does such a great job.
You have a lot to live up to. Don't mess up.
Well, with my notes, I was just writing like my feelings and just little side thoughts. But if I know I have to do the whole narration, I'll write more detailed notes.
I'll probably be writing all the details too, just in case you forget anything.
Just in case.
But yeah, so we'll be back next week for our bonus episode. And then after that, we're just jumping right into season 2.
Da, na, 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 na.
I can't sing with you. I don't know the song.
Da, na, na, na. It's Star Wars.
Bye, everyone.
Bye. You've been listening to the It's All Geek to Me podcast, hosted by Leah and Kelly. Make sure to hit subscribe on your favorite podcast player and give us a rating. You can also find us on Twitter @AllGeekPodcast. New episodes drop every Thursday. See you next week.